So it is October 31, 2023. And I'm located in just outside of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. And the theme of this reflection is a little playful, perhaps a little provocative. The theme is ally work is like no dose LSD. Ally work is like no dose LSD. So the theme of this reflection was inspired by my encounter with Dr. Christopher Bache's work, also Professor Bache. And I referred to his work in another video, which will likely be titled Coming Home and Creating Home. Coming Home and Creating Home. I wanted to go a little bit more into my engagement with his work. And as I mentioned in that video, his most recent book, which is a very powerful book, and I'd highly recommend it. It's called LSD and the Mind of the Universe, Diamonds from Heaven. And that in itself might be a provocative title for some, but I really encourage you to consider it as a deep contemplative book. I will share that a highly respected therapist who I know told me he considers it a spiritual text. So please get past any prejudices you might have about the title and really give the book a chance. I had the opportunity to speak with Professor Bache, and half jokingly, but half seriously, I said to him, perhaps the Catholic Church might consider making you a saint. And he, had originally as a child grown up in the Catholic tradition, so I was slightly joking about or making reference to that, and also joking because obviously the Catholic Church is not likely to make someone a saint for their deep spiritual explorations through LSD. But I was serious in the sense that I really do believe he has done a great service to humanity, and for us spiritually, collectively, through his exploration, because it was a very arduous journey for him to do that. And he did it with real rigor and with the precision of a research scientist as best he could. So I'm very in appreciation of him and his journey. But the reason I'm titling this reflection ally work is like no dose LSD, because I'm not someone who engages with LSD, nor would I want to go on his journey. The intensity, or experience the intensity of his journey. And it was quite remarkable to me that in viewing the progression of his journey and the deepening of it through different, let's call it layers of spiritual experience or depth, that I noticed some of the very same evolutions in his journey. I noticed them in a more subtle and much less intense way in my own evolution with the practice of ally work. So to put it simply, in the book, Christopher Bache recounts his 20 years over approximately 70 very, very deep, intense journeys, high-dose journeys with LSD. And there's a progression, you could call it, a progression from, let's say, the more human dimension of being to, let's say, more collective dimensions of humanity, to more mythic or archetypal, to deeper layers of more, you could call it like spiritual light or consciousness. I'm not doing it justice or explaining that precisely, but that gives a general sense of it. But what struck me was I have noticed in my practice of ally work that there is a relationship to the ally in which there is progression or an evolution of that relationship and the way the ally appears to me, or the way I represent the ally in symbolic or imaginal form, that for me had a lot of resonance with Chris Bache's journey, the evolution of his journey. We could say, or I could say, that in observing Chris Bache's journey, there was sort of like, how would I put it? A self-developing or self-guiding process. So it's like he would reach one insight, and then there might be, he might reach one level of insight and then undergo through stages of some doubt or uncertainty or struggle that were required for the next level of insight. So certainly that pattern or process seems to be a feature of my engagement with ally work. And not just that process, but also some of the, let's say, evolution of the way Bache is encountering the divine or the conscious intelligence of being, the way that, let's say, evolves from more gross or symbolic to more subtle or energetic forms happens, is something I've also noticed in the evolution of the relationship with the ally. Again, I mentioned a kind of self-guiding or self-correcting process. And in the episode 8 that John Vervaeke has published for his series After Socrates, so John Vervaeke, the cognitive scientist at University of Toronto, who has started to speak about ally work, he also spoke in that video of his experience of ally work as being like a self-correcting process. And when I spoke with him recently, privately, we both reflected on some further aspects of that in sharing dimensions of our personal experiences and evolution of ally work with each other. So this theme or phrase, ally work is like no dose LSD, is a thought, is an idea that came to my mind after I was reading Bache's work. So there's a lot of deep resonance there. And what I love about ally work, of course, is that it doesn't involve any external substances. It's very natural and organic. And there's a gentleness to it. There's a gentleness to it that for me is very supportive. I don't know if my energetic system is, let's say, desirous of wanting the intensity of the high intensity experiences that Chris Bache was having, which also, as he very transparently and honestly writes about, took a very deep toll on his energetic system and required a lot of hard work and healing and integration. So there's something about the practice of ally work that is very gentle, compassionate on our human beings in gradually evolving and refining our relationship with this intelligence of being and our understanding of that intelligence of being. Chris Bache describes LSD as an amplifier, So in a sense, the LSD is not, you could say, necessarily I don't want to say this with a kind of statement of fact, but I'll just put it out there as an idea. The LSD is not necessarily adding anything new. It could be, in a sense, just simply removing some of the veils that are built into us, partly in a protective way. And so I refer to the work of the philosopher and writer Bernardo Kastrup, and he posits through his work, core to his work, he has a very similar understanding to the non-dual teacher Rupert Spira, that this non-dual nature of awareness is foundational to who we are, is the foundation of our being. And his idea in one of his books is that, and he's of course stated it elsewhere in podcasts and such, but he has the idea that when we take a psychedelic such as LSD, it is removing some of the natural, let's say, barriers or filters that our brain is structured with that veils us from this deeper experience of unity or non-dual consciousness, or experiencing that in a more visceral way. In a sense, it's such an intense experience that for us to function in the material time-based level, we could not be operating with that kind of intensity of awareness all the time. So, as might be spoken of in the Islamic tradition, this is a protective veil. But it is Kastrup's belief that the way these psychedelics might function is simply by removing some of these veils rather than by adding anything in particular. So again, ally work is a very gentle way, I believe, of that process. In a sense, ally work isn't adding anything. It's more a space in which is revealing to us our natural connection to this unity, and is allowing us an ability to enter into that relational mode of self-recognition with that unity, a dialogic mode of that unity appearing up to us in a relational form, which seems to be that relational form of the unity or the divinity appearing to us seems to be a core feature across spiritual traditions, and maybe part of why humans exist in the way they are is to engage in that relational feature of this dialogical relationship to the divine. So I'll leave it there. I think that's enough for this reflection, but I did want to articulate that aspect and resonance of what came up for me in reading Bache's work, and also as a way to really honor and value how meaningful, how much depth and how much transformative capacity there is in this practice of ally work. So thank you for your interest and sending my best wishes to you.